Welcome back, Canisius High School community. It is Andy Deyell, your Vice President of Institutional Advancement, back with another episode of Conversations with Canisius, our regular Zoom series where we check in with our alums all over the U.S. and the world and see what they've been up to since their time here at 1180 Delaware. We are joined today by a local alumnus, Mr. Tom Moriarty from the class of 2000. Tom, how are you today?
Good. How you doing, Andy?
I'm well. Thanks for joining us. Tom is the co-owner of Moriarty Meats. Hopefully all of you out there have had a chance to stop into his shop on Elmwood Avenue. He is co-owner with his wife, Caitlin, and he joins us today right from Buffalo, New York. Tom, let's launch right into this. We have a little bit of time today to just get your story, and I have the benefit, of course, of knowing a little bit more about you than our viewing public today. So tell us a little bit, take us back into a few years ago. How did you find out about Canisius High School, and what helped you make your decision to attend school there?
So my older brother, Matt, was class of 95, and we both went to elementary school at Narden down the street. So shouldn't say that it was, it was always assumed that I would try to get into Canisius, but it was, basically, yeah.
That sounds about right. And during your time at Canisius, who were your sort of big influences, and what were your favorite classes, and what kind of activities were you involved in at Canisius?
My favorite teachers were probably David McCallum, now Father McCallum. He was my English teacher. Gretchen Kessler was my Spanish teacher. I was involved with lacrosse and student senate, cross country early on, but I kind of gave that up after sophomore year. So
that's great. Dave McCallum was also one of my favorite guys. He's a Jesuit who I came to know while I was teaching HAP at Canisius right after college, and our paths have intersected multiple times along the way. As a matter of fact, I just saw him 2 weeks ago up at Lemoyne College, where he was giving
nice.
a commencement address. Yeah, but a great guy. That's so great. And so you were involved in lacrosse, and that takes you, that path helped you get to the next level. Tell us a little bit about sort of your undergraduate experience, and then we'll pivot a little bit into your overseas experience.
Sure. So I went to Denison University, which is a liberal arts college down in Granville, Ohio. I was a Spanish and International Studies double major down there. Played lacrosse as well through college, and decided to go down there for a number of reasons. It was a smaller school. I was kind of looking for a smaller school. Lacrosse was a big motivation of mine at that point, and they had a very strong lacrosse team, and do to this day. And they also had a good foreign language program. So after, I should say, I originally was class of 99 at Canisius, but I took a year off and lived abroad as an exchange student in Spain, and then came back and graduated in 2000 with the class that was originally below me. So
that's great. And then, so how did you get into butchering animals and just sort of the meat business? I think it's a really cool story, and it has something to do with your travel abroad, right?
It does. So after I graduated Denison, I really wanted to live in Spain again. And in order to do so, I needed to either have a working visa or a student visa. Working visas are very difficult for Americans to get. They kind of keep those visas for members of the EU. And so really my best option of staying there for anything longer than 6 months was to get a student visa. So I just graduated and wasn't really sure what I wanted to do yet with my life. I know I wanted to teach English abroad just to try that whole thing out. So, well, I should backstep. In order to get over to Spain, I applied to a number of different schools, one of them being a culinary school. And I had this pipe dream of kind of getting into the food world. And so I applied and was accepted, and that got me over there. And then I was teaching English as a second language at night, as well as working in restaurants, etc. So
that's great. And so when did you, how did you, Moriarty Meats has been in existence now for what, 3 years?
Yes. Yeah. 3 going on 4. Yep.
And so tell us a little bit about that sort of thought process coming, going to Denison, some of the places you worked. I believe you worked on a meat. Was it a meat farm? Is that even the right word I'm trying to think of? But tell us a little bit about your post-college experience and sort of how that brought back you to Buffalo and piqued your interest in maybe opening your own butchery.
Sure, yeah. So after I got back from Spain, culinary school in what was maybe 2006, 2006, my brother had a friend who had started a farm in Western Massachusetts. And unfortunately, he had passed away in a car accident, and his family was looking for help on the farm to kind of carry on the business and or close it out. They didn't really know what the end goal was at that point. I had just gotten back from Spain and told my brother that I was interested in the meat industry. And so he said, this might be a good opportunity for you to learn a little bit more about it. And so I started working on this farm and then ended up managing it for almost 2 years. And that got me kind of more interested in not only the ethics of good quality meat, but also how the animals were cut. I was selling to restaurants and to farmers markets in and around Boston, but I didn't really have a great understanding of how the animals were broken down, and that bugged me. So I figured I might be able to find the same sort of education in France as I did Spain. And so I did that. I went over to France and lived there for a couple of years, finished my butchery degree over there, and then came back. And if I'm getting too far ahead.
No, it's great. No, it's great.
Yeah.
You're going right where I need you to go.
Okay. Met my wife, and we tried to actually open the shop almost 8 years ago now. And it just didn't work out. We had looked at this property down on Niagara Street and things fell through. And I got into sales, food sales, then wine sales. And then there's this opportunity over on Grant Street, very small shop that we could get into relatively cheaply. And so we tested it out just on Saturdays for a while. And it just kind of, the business kind of grew and grew and grew. And here we are, now almost 4 years later. And we've moved our business to Elmwood Avenue at the end of Great Arrow.
And what's it like? What was it like to sort of try to grow a business in the middle of a pandemic?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, before that, we were actually working the business part-time as we were doing our other jobs. And we also had our first, or I should say our two sons. So before the pandemic, there was a lot of shuffling back and forth of responsibilities, which was trying, but at the same time rewarding. And then we moved into our new building March 7th, 2020. I think the next week was the beginning of all the craziness of COVID. So naturally, we had just signed our lives away to all of our lenders. And the pandemic hit, and it was pretty nerve-wracking for the first few months. Fortunately, because we were in the meat industry and because our supply chain never stopped, because we deal with local farms, we were able to grow our business exponentially through the pandemic, to the point where now many of the practices that we put in place when the pandemic first hit, such as our online ordering system, have become kind of a staple of our business and a big part of our annual sales.
And I'm assuming things are going well. I read in the newspaper not too long ago about your plans to open a restaurant. Like, how did that sort of pivot come about?
So the building we bought here on Elmwood is the old Vino's restaurant. Again, right at the end of Great Arrow, where Great Arrow hits Elmwood Avenue. And we bought the building because of the structure itself. We live upstairs, which was an important thing for Caitlin and I in terms of our family life. When we were over on Grant Street, I was spending a lot of late hours over there and didn't really have enough time to spend good quality time with her and our children. Mm-hmm. And so we decided that when we looked for a forever home for our business, that we would try to find a building where we could live upstairs and have our business down below. So this building here, 1650, was perfect. We came in, we retrofitted what was their old prep area into our current butcher shop. And conveniently on the other side was their old kitchen and bar. So we kind of always knew that we'd try to grow into it. But because of the pandemic, that put a halt on our plans. And throughout the year, we've kind of just been chipping away at putting lipstick on it and developing our plan. And now that the pandemic is hopefully beginning to lift, we're trying to move into that part of our business plan that we had to, set to the side.
Great. And as you reflect back on your time at Canisius, any lessons you learned that sort of have sustained you in the business world or or any part of your life?
Yeah, absolutely. I think most importantly, what Canisius taught me was discipline and work ethic. I wasn't the strongest student. Spanish was pretty much the only class that I was good at. So, I remember a lot of teachers pulling me to the side, including Father McCallum and a few others, telling me that they knew I had the potential to do better in class, and it was really just up to me to work. And I remember going home to my mother and father a few times after getting some pretty terrible grades. And, obviously they were pretty upset. Eventually I got it through my head that nobody was going to be able to do it but myself, and I needed to buckle down and work on my work ethic and my discipline. And I think that's pretty much the strongest thing that I took away from Canisius and use to this day.
Great. How about advice for our alums? That we have a lot of alums, heading off to college soon, just graduating from college and starting their careers. Is there any advice that you could give to young people as you think back on your experience?
Personally, I think that the biggest part of what's taken me to where I am today is that I've kind of had my hand in a lot of different things. I wouldn't say I'm a jack of all trades, but I've done a lot of different things that, at least for me personally, have gotten me to this point. So I think if you kind of have a broader perspective on what you want to do with your life from the beginning, as opposed to pigeonholing yourself to one certain career path right off the bat, it may or may not be beneficial. So I would say kind of look at the opportunities ahead of you and don't turn any one opportunity down because you think that it's not what's expected of you or assumed you should do. Follow the path that you think is right for your life. And then back to what I was talking about in terms of work ethic that I learned at Canisius. I feel like the strongest things that employers look for, the strongest thing that an employer looks for is your work ethic.
Sure.
Degrees are important, but showing up to work every day and doing it what's expected of you ultimately is what people are looking for.
Well, that's great advice, and it rings true. Well, thanks for spending a few moments with us today, catching us up on your life and your business plans. It sounds like you got a lot on your plate, but it also sounds like Canisius provided you the foundation to be able to handle it all. So good luck with everything and stay in touch. And we look forward to hearing what is to come from not only Tom Moriarty, but Moriarty Meets.
Thank you very much, Andy. I appreciate the time and hope to talk to you soon.
Yeah. Go Crusaders.
You got it.
Bye.
See ya.